To help you be safe, Washington state law requires you to call 811 2 full business days before you plan, for example, to dig, drill, plow, pull from, or pound anything into the ground. Be prepared to provide the operator with the correct address, cross street, and a description of your work. You must mark the dig area with white paint. The operator will inform you of the utilities notified of your impending excavation. Wait for all their marks. Be safe and dig with care.
It's time for House to Home on your radio. House to Home, where you'll hear from local people who turn houses into homes across the inland Northwest, and how you can too. House to Home is brought to you in part by your friends at Rada Paint and Avista. Here's your host, Clyde Hawsey.
And welcome, folks, back again. You know, we have got so many good subjects going on, and joining me here today, Curtis Reed, Greater American Contracting. Am I correct on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You know, I have just finished a couple other shows with Avista, and we must have been waiting for you to come because we had great ideas of what they can participate in, but we had no one who could functionally do them. And guess what? You walked in the door. So, Curtis,
here I am.
Planning is always well done. And I want to say thank you for joining us here this morning.
No problem.
A couple things about the construction world. You know, I mean, we were talking to Avista, and they were saying, you got to be aware of this and be aware of that. Here it is in the summertime, and we're getting next season, and we have Spokane. It's 4 different seasons of the year. What are some of the things that you would like to have you be looking at? If I called you and said, hey, Curtis, will you do an evaluation of my home so I can see what's going on? Would you actually come out and take a look at it at your convenience and everybody's time and to look at it?
Yeah, anytime we get called to do bids or come out and take out, we always walk around the house and we give recommendations on things that we see, you know, trees too close to houses, gutters full of leaves. You know, that's part of our, you know, bidding process of letting them know what else we see.
Sure.
You know, depending on what their concerns are.
Well, it seemed like one thing leads to another anyway.
Yes.
You know,
there's a lot of things to look at usually when you start that.
Well, for those of you that have already heard my story once before, I'm going to tell it to Curtis because he's not heard this story. 10, 15 years ago, I needed some siding put on. I had beautiful redwood on the siding, but I didn't want to stain it anymore. So I said, I want to get some vinyl siding. I found the siding upon recommendations from a contractor, and we proceeded. And I left town. I had left for the summer for a couple months, and I came back, and the place, it looked beautiful.
Yep.
Looked great. You know, I had a few stationary windows that we needed to have replaced, and he took care of that. That was great. But I didn't ask a few questions. This is 15 years later. I had never asked, are you going to wrap the home? Are you going to be just leaving it set as it is? What are you going to do? And these are the things. As a general contractor in the construction business, I assume that you sit down with the people and say, do you understand how this is done? And here's what we are going to do.
Yeah, we always try to explain, you know, because there are several different ways to do things. You know, you can do house wrap, usually is what you do underneath some homes, but other homes we have to use, you know, like 1/2-inch insulation, different things like that, where you get a little bit of R value, but you also are furring out the walls to be able to apply like a vinyl siding or something. So, you know, you try to go through those steps explaining to people what they get out of each one. And
but you're going to evaluate that.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of times you can do both, you know, depending on what the customer's, you know, expectations are, what they want to get out of a house. Those are some of the questions we ask. You know, sometimes they want more R value, sometimes they just want the job done quick and easy and at a, you know, smaller price. But that's kind of up to the customer. It's our job to explain to them what they're going to get out of each step.
Well, let's just go right to the point here, because I'm sitting here with a gentleman that you've been in business for a long, long time. Greater American Construction has been around for how long? And let's just talk about who you are and what are your specialties, because that gives more vitality what we're talking about and how we're answering each other.
Well, we've been around 23 years, so we're getting good at this now.
You already have, yes.
You know, and we concentrate on mostly the exterior products of a home, you know, siding, windows, roofing, gutters, doors, egress windows, those type of things. So those are the things we specialize in. We do some of the other things, but that's usually when we're a little bit slower. And of course, lately we have not had to worry about doing extra things around the home, but we usually have good people that we recommend for different things if it's something that we don't do. But those are usually the products that we deal with, and we deal with mostly the vinyl type products when it comes to the exterior of the home.
So again, when they call you, and folks, when I called them, guess what? It was a live person. My gosh.
Yes.
Answered the phone. I'm sorry. It frustrates me to no end when you call.
Yeah, that is a big one.
And this is a recording, but they will call, and I thought to myself, wow. Okay, enough of that. I'm sorry. But I really enjoyed talking to your wife. She had good answers, and
Yes.
she filled us in on some of the information. But let's talk about the other thing, so that you're saying primarily you do exterior, and I assume you must do some concrete work and then so forth.
Yeah, we do a little bit of everything, but yeah, usually we concentrate on just the
I like
exterior
that.
of the homes, just because all employees, everybody's on the same page,
Sure.
and they get good at what they do. When we do venture off into other things, we have to be careful that we're not taking on something that the guys aren't very good at, and then we have issues that we
Or you have to deal with
with.
those subcontractors.
Yes, which
Yeah.
is always interesting sometimes.
No, not really. It isn't. I do enough of that. It is not good, and it's not interesting all the time. Okay, with the issues at hand, primarily siding, rain gutters, and again, windows are real important, and roofing.
Yes.
Let's just do all of those 4 items. I mean, we all have them in our own home. Quick tip on siding, what would you recommend?
I've been doing the vinyl siding mainly for the 23 years, so I definitely recommend if it's done with better products and done with the crews that know what they're doing, you're not going to have some of the scary stories that some people talk about when it comes to vinyl siding. If done with better products, and like our products are usually ones that we've been installing for 20 some years, so we know our products very well and they've worked very well for us. When you venture into products you don't know, or other people's products that maybe you got a good deal with, you can run into some issues, but usually it goes down to how good is the company installing it and what if they've done it for a long time. Usually those little problems that people have with vinyl siding are not going to be the issues that you're going to deal with.
What you're saying is if the installer understands the product, then he's going to do it correctly.
Yes.
Because it's easier to do it right than it is to do it wrong.
I've seen some jobs that people have done wrong, and yes, it definitely
Me
helps
too.
to know what
too.
you're doing when you do it.
Are there some quick tips that you want to pass on to our audience because they're listening today and saying, hey, if you're looking at siding, here's a couple of things to be checking, asking questions about?
Well, the big thing on vinyl siding is just making sure you're dealing with a reputable company that's done many jobs, and make sure you have jobs that you can go look at, because that's the tell of anything is you actually see it. Like with us, with every product we sell, we have jobs done in every color and every style that we sell. So if you want to pick a color, we actually have a job that you can go to and look at. So always make sure of that, and then make sure that the products that they're selling are products that they've actually installed before, instead of products that they just found on the internet the day before. So they actually
Got such
know
a deal
what
for
they're
you,
working.
right?
Yes, exactly. And so those are some of the main things, but also always getting 2 or 3 bids. Making sure you get a good variety of people, so you can ask questions from one contractor to the next, so you can actually find out some of the information.
Curtis, when we started this conversation, you said one thing: plan ahead.
Yeah.
List yourself with a list of 3 to 5 questions or 6. I don't care what it's going to be, but be consistent so that you can follow and compare answers. Is
Yes.
that correct?
That is a good way to go, yes.
I mean, that's just my old-fashioned way of doing it. If the story is told by 3 people of 4, it's the same, then that's pretty well the answer it's going to be.
Yes. Yeah, because everybody has different ways of looking at things. And, if you can
Exactly.
get people on the same page, then you've really got the good answer for it.
Okay. I'm going to go to the next one. We talked a little bit about rain gutters.
Mm-hmm.
What are some do's and don'ts, and what do you recommend?
Well, gutters are a big part of the Northwest, because we get a lot of rain,
Oh,
we get
yeah.
a lot of weather. Again, going with reputable companies, knowing how to install them is definitely a big thing. A lot of people like to use them just over doorways and walkways, but it's also nice to use to control water around the rest of
Right.
your house for your
Right.
foundations, for your growth of your plants
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. I mean, water does a lot of damage when it's allowed to fall 10, 12 feet off the
Oh, yeah.
house. And so just controlling everything, and then just making sure that the company is installing them properly is a good
Well, I was
good
going
way.
to say that one of the things on rain gutters, folks, before we leave that subject and take a break here coming up, but I wanted to pass on that after you get the water around the roof and you get it down into the ground, then I'm also a great advocate. Make sure that it's flowing away from the home.
Yes, that's a big one.
And you've seen it the other way where it flows back to the home, right?
I've seen it many times, yes.
So we have to understand that you can put the best rain gutters on and the best downspouts, but if you don't make sure it's running away from the home,
Yep.
you haven't accomplished anything, have we?
Yeah, sometimes we've told people they got to start landscaping to get the flow of the water
Yep.
away from the house, because
Yep.
if it puddles next to the foundation, then yeah, you're kind of defeating the purpose.
And I always use the old example, when in doubt, ask the expert, and they're going to try to tell you or say to you, yes, the ground is floating back towards, and if there's any question, just set a pot of water on the ground, and which way is the water leaning?
Yes.
That's going to tell you. I mean, there's some simple answers here, folks, that will give you those answers.
Yes.
We need to take a quick break here. We're going to come back. I want to talk about roofing, and I want to talk about some of the insulation that you were talking about from before. So, again, Curtis Reed with Great American Construction is going to be coming right back to us with a few more examples of what we can be looking for. So, thank you.
Sounds good.
Last year alone, Avista customers saved over 53 million kilowatt hours of energy by taking advantage of rebates from Avista. Like 15 cents a square foot for new attic insulation, $35 for installing a smart thermostat, or $2,300 for switching from electric to natural gas heat. And all that savings reduced carbon emissions by more than 18,000 tons. Way to save, everyone. Way to save. Find your way to save at avistautilities.com.
When it comes to adding long-lasting color to your world, let Rada Paint give you a hand. It'll be a snap with Rada Paint's quality coatings, vast color choices, and plenty of painting supplies. Visit your local Spokane Rada Paint stores today, or go online to radapaint.com. That's radapaint.com.
Rada Paint. Finish right.
To help you be safe, Washington state law requires you to call 811 2 full business days before you plan, for example, to dig, drill, plow, pull from, or pound anything into the ground. Be prepared to provide the operator with the correct address, cross street, and the description of your work. You must mark the dig area with white paint. The operator will inform you of the utilities notified of your impending excavation. Wait for all their marks. Be safe and dig with care.
Welcome back, folks. We're talking with Curtis Reed of Greater American Construction. Thank you again for joining us today.
No problem.
I would have to tell you, folks, Curtis is busy, not just 8 hours a day, but probably 12, 14, 16 hours a day right now, right?
There's a lot of hours right now. It's
Well,
very busy.
I had the opportunity when I called there and I talked to his wife, Diane, and it's a family-run business. And they answer the phone in person instead of recording. I think that's so important. Curtis was telling us, folks, if you're just joining late, he's been in business for, 20-some-odd years in Spokane,
Yes.
got a good, reputable reputation, licensed, bonded, the whole 9 yards,
Yes.
most important part of the whole complete construction. And you stand behind your work.
Yes.
And that's, you got to ask those questions if you're going to get it and start spending tens of thousands of dollars, whatever it's going
It's
to
a
be.
lot of money sometimes.
Oh, yeah, ever so true. Curtis, we had talked about the siding. I wanted to end the rain gutters, and I wanted to get now into the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, we all have a roof over our head, don't we?
Yes. It's a big part of the house.
A big part of the house and a big expense. And I never know, and here I am kind of in the business and always talking about these things, but what are some of the questions that these people should be asking you? What is it, I just like the color.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest answer from the lady of the house. She's saying, I love that color, right?
Yes. But I think the big thing is just, again, reputable companies, but also, there's a lot of codes that we have to hit when it comes to roofing. And sometimes, the older homes, we have to bring them up to code, that they're not, up to code for what, for venting, for ice and water guard and things like that, for ice dams. So there's a lot of things, and most companies do pretty well, but, some companies use used products. Some people leave a lot of the old products on the roof and just put new roofing on, but you should always change everything out when you do a roof.
Okay, I've heard this one, so now you need to give me a straight answer.
Yeah.
I've heard this point. If you have a single layer on, and this was, in fact, it was during the windstorm we had here, a year ago, November, I guess it was, and part of my roof blew off. And he said, well, we'll just, we can either take and just put a new section in there. We'll just re-roof the whole thing so you can take the whole old roof off. Well, no, we don't have to. Now, you're the expert. Tell me. I said, don't worry about the old part, because if it's all right, it's all right.
Yeah. Well, the code is you can go over one layer now. It used to be 3 about 5-6 years ago, but
Really?
you had 3 layers that you could have on a roof. Now you're down to 2, so you can do a layover. I personally like to tear off even one layer because I like to be able to inspect the plywood or the decking underneath to make sure you don't have any other issues.
Or the dry rot.
Yeah, because you got 30 years. The roofing, a normal roof is a 30-year laminate, and
Right.
so you don't want to put a 30-year roof on top of rotten plywood and find out that in 5 more years you need to take that roof back off. So I like to take a look at it, but on a newer home that maybe was put on 5 years ago and you had some damaged roofing come off, yes, you can lay over that and not have an issue because you know the plywood is still in pretty good shape. But
Well, water damage comes in play all the time, and I've seen so many rain gutters, and I've seen so many valleys of the roof, and I've seen dry rot.
Yep.
And my home was built 40 years ago, and I'm seeing that it wasn't built to last forever. And what Curtis is telling me is that it is correct, folks. You've got to go ahead, strip it down to the bare wood, understand what you're getting yourself into.
Yep. Yeah, getting it done right the first time is a big part of roofing.
That's another
because-
30 or 40 years, right?
Exactly. It's not like buying something that's going to last a year. This is something that's going to be keeping the water out of your house for a very long time, and getting it done right the first time is a big part of it. And I know most people don't like buying a roof. Most people wait too long to put the roof on. And a lot of times when you want to do a layover, you waited too long because then the roofing is in too bad a shape where you have to tear it off. And so there's a lot of times you can't even do a layover, even if it's one layer, because of the condition.
And
of
I
the
think you're
roof.
referring to some of the curling of the tabs.
Exactly.
What happens, folks, they begin to curl up and like little wings out there on each one of
Yes.
them. At that point, there is no choice.
That's
is
when
there?
you have to do tear off.
Okay,
And it's
okay.
a good idea because there's a lot of other problems that could be happening underneath those shingles at the same time.
So if you even want to do your own personal self-inspection, you could almost look up and say, well, it's looking pretty flat up there, yeah? Or why we got a little spot like this, a waviness, Those are kind of, giveaways?
Yeah, when you start seeing the tips of the roofing starting to when you see a shadow line, that's when the tar between them is starting to let go.
Okay.
That's when wind can get under there and pull up roofing. I've seen whole sections of roof lift up off the roof and then lay right back down and go a foot up off there when the wind's blowing, and then
Wow.
lay back down and look like it's not even moved. And those are things you definitely need to keep an eye on. But a good tell is just seeing the little shadow lines up there. When you start seeing those, that's a good time to start thinking about a new roof. And then, of course, when they start curling, you've already waited too long.
Well, when you're working with contractors, and of course, you and I, we're talking to the choir. I'm a contractor, so are you. But the issues are, there's always questions. Why didn't you ask this? Or did they give you this straight of an answer? And I think that there's certain things that people need to be doing is saying, what do you see happening here? Or again, as I had shared with Avista, is that maybe have 3 or 4 of the same questions and get good answers
Yes.
on those. And I share it with you also. Do you agree with that one?
Yeah, I think it's great to get a good list. I mean, you can find things online so easily nowadays.
Oh.
You can build a list of questions that that a good contractor should know the answer.
Well, but I'm also going to say, just because it's on YouTube,
You
or
do
on
have
Wi-Fi,
to watch some things too. Yes, you do have to pay attention.
I've seen
and
some
that's
tough
where our
ones.
job to let you know that maybe that thing you just found on the internet is not a good thing to listen
Okay,
to.
that's my point.
Yes, it's our job to be able to tell you
Okay.
it's good or bad.
Now, can you help us out here? And again, everybody's getting excited about this thing because they want to give you a call and ask you questions. How do we get hold of you, Curtis?
Well, we have the same phone number we've had for 23 years. So
Wow.
we're 509-325-2572. And so we've had that since day one, and which is good because I have a hard time remembering numbers. So this makes it easy for me. And so that's the best way. And then, of course, you can go online. My son tells me that's how a lot of people are doing things nowadays.
Right.
So you can go online under GreaterAmericanConstruction.com and look us up that way too.
And any time of a successful contractor, and I have to be honest with you, and I'm going to say this openly, and I haven't even talked to you about this,
Yes.
but if I came to you and said, hey, you know what, Curtis, I need this done in next week, you're going to tell me what?
I'm going to tell you that it's going to be very hard for us to get to you
Okay.
that quick.
That's a good contractor.
Yes.
Because us that are good, we're going to say, well, you know what? If you need it done right now, you may have to try somebody else. And beware.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
good ones
Anybody
are real
that can jump on it that day, they're either charging you way too much or they're new at this. And,
Yeah,
you know.
and ask those questions, and don't be
Yes.
afraid to be open and honest with yourself. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, when you're paying that kind of money, ask any question you want to
Yeah.
ask because you are paying for that question.
Okay, I want to ask one other question, one other product here, and I know we're getting closer to the end, but I want to be talking about is that on windows. At my home, I've shared it, and everybody knows, has been listening now, everybody knows I have an atrium. I have stationary windows in it, and I do have some upright lift ones, and they're just doing fine. But the verticals are stationary, and they have lost their seal.
Yes.
Now I'm going to tell you a no-no that I have found for me. On a south exposure, my wife said, we don't want any drapes up because we have a view. We don't want to be blocking the view, honey. Yes, dear. But how do we keep the sun rays out? Well, back 15, 20 years ago, we didn't have much choice except we put a film on them on the inside.
Yes.
And he did tell us at the time that it couldn't have an effect on possibly the window. Am I correct on that?
Yes, it could build up heat and cause those seals to fail quicker than maybe
Right.
a normal.
He was very open with us, and I really respect him for what he told us. And guess what? It did happen.
Yeah.
So the end result is that we have 11 of these windows that have failed, and now it's time to replace them.
Yes.
I have gone through at least 4 to 6 different contractors and product people. And I walk away and I'm saying, I'm really frustrated. I mean, I could spend as much on windows as I probably spent on my home in the beginning, or I
Yes.
can be realistically and say 10, 15 years, that's what they're made for.
Yep.
And they've got the new UV factors, am I correct?
Yep.
You're the expert. Tell us about it, because
well,
I'm kind
low-E
of answering my
glass-
own question.
Yes, you're doing very good too. Low E glass is, of course, the number one thing for blocking out heat and keeping the cool in.
It's
and-
E-glass.
Yeah, low E glass, and it's a metallic coating that goes on the glass, goes on the inside of the double panes. That's pretty much a standard now. Between like what your last guest, Avista, they give a discount for using.
Right.
And they have a standard which is a pretty low standard. Most companies are meeting that standard, which is a 0.30. Lower the number, the better. Getting that in your windows is kind of the big thing nowadays. Every company sells a decent low E glass. There's not really anybody that doesn't. So that's probably the number one thing you can need to look for. And yes, there's a lot of difference in pricing and products, but I always say, there's a happy medium to everything. You don't want to spend the $30,000, which is almost the cost of a house.
Yeah.
But you also don't want to go,
It's your choice.
very
so.
cheap. Yes.
Yes.
I always say stay in that middle range. Usually is a great place to be. Spending a reasonable amount of money, and again, getting several different opinions. I just know from my experience in installing a certain product every, for the last 20 years, vinyl windows is by far for price and for quality, and then you're just looking at the bells and whistles of what you want the window to do.
And it's low maintenance.
It's very low maintenance. You just wash your windows once in a while. I don't do that, but
Your wife doesn't. She said
my
you
wife
do.
doesn't do it very much either. She'll probably be mad at me for that. But we're training our daughter to wash the windows. So
okay.
hopefully we'll get her
Okay.
down to doing that for us.
Well, she gets done, she can come to our place too.
Yes.
You're answering my question the way I want it answered, because vinyl, and I'm into the era of my life where I don't want to be spending my time painting windows. I mean,
Yes.
I don't mind painting. I don't at all. But what a pain. I'm not an expert, and we're going to be talking to Rada Paint, and they're going to help us out
Yes.
with that. But my point is, I'd rather go fishing with my grandson than I would
Yeah,
paint
then-
the window, right?
I'm kind of with you on that.
Okay, so, but wood window frames, and that doesn't mean a wood window, it means
Yeah.
a frame of wood. They're still good too, right?
Well, they're good, but they're definitely going to be in the higher cost range. And some homes, people just still like the look of, nothing's prettier than wood. I mean, wood's
Nothing's
a great
prettier,
look.
yeah.
But there is a lot of maintenance, and you have to be aware that you will be, varnishing them and painting them and doing things that you need to do with the, everything I buy in my house, I like low maintenance. I like to not have to worry
You were
about
with
it.
me.
My house, I spray it off with a hose. I, sometimes clean the glass, and that's it. I don't have to do anything else. So
I think you and I came from the same school.
when you do it for a living, you don't want to come home and do it all day
Again,
long. So
yeah.
that's a good thing to look at when you're in the market for that type
We're
of stuff.
right at towards the end here, Curtis, and I want to have your real honest opinion.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about basically 4 things: siding, rain gutters, windows. And what are some of the major tips that you want to tell us about the exterior of your home? The masonry, we didn't even talk about any of that, but again, you need to be evaluating it at all times, right?
I think you should always be looking around your house at all times, and keep an eye on things, because things like to just show up. You think you're looking, and then next thing you know, there's a problem, and you go, why haven't I seen this? Spend that time to walk around your house, look up, look down, look behind things. If you see something weird, call a professional in. Bids are free. We all go out and look at things. Many times I've looked at roofs and said, you got 10 years, don't even bother, getting this roof done. It's a free call for any of that type of stuff.
Mark my name down. You need to get hold of me. I need a new roof. I got a feeling. But, that's why this program has been so successful.
Yes.
We're trying to bring things to people's mind. If you have a home, you have these expenses coming up, and how do you make the right judgment call?
Yeah.
So, again, how do they get hold of you? Great American Contracting?
509-325-2572.
Okay, and go to the website, www.
GreaterAmericanConstruction.com.
Okay, sounds good. I do appreciate it. Curtis, you've given us a lot of things to think about and a lot of positiveness of our audience, because we all need to be reminded of these things. And when you own a home, and how to keep your house before you have to be leaving it, going to the big home, you got to maintain this. And so that's why we really appreciate it. So, again, thank you, Curtis.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you, folks, for joining us, because, again, this is just how we keep you educated in how to keep your house and home.
House to Home with Clyde Hawsey is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask Clyde a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. House to Home is brought to you each week by Avista and Rada Paint. You can turn your house into a home. We're here to help. Thanks for listening to Spokane Talks Online.
Last year alone, Avista customers saved over 53 million kilowatt hours of energy. How? By caulking their windows, programming their thermostats, replacing their incandescent light bulbs with LEDs. Simple things, really. But the energy they saved was enough to power more than 4,000 homes for an entire year. Way to save, everyone. Way to save. Find your way to save at avistautilities.com.
When it comes to adding long-lasting color to your world, let Rada Paint give you a hand. It'll be a snap with Rada Paint's quality coatings, vast color choices, and plenty of painting supplies. Visit your local Spokane Rada Paint stores today, or go online to radapaint.com. That's radapaint.com.
Rada Paint. Finish right.